The stirring up of Iran for war. The stirring up of Iran for war. We have a scripture text in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17, which states, Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Then from a sacred literature text, the book of Enoch, chapter 56, verse 5 through 6, which state, And in those days the angels shall return and hurl themselves to the east upon the Parthians and Medes. They shall stir up the kings, so that a spirit of unrest shall come upon them, and they shall rouse them from their thrones, that they may break forth as lions from their lairs, and as hungry wolves among their flocks. And they shall go up and tread underfoot the land of his elect ones, and the land of his elect ones shall be before them a thrashing floor and a highway. Selah. Currently, as we observe the Iran and Israel war, there are some who are citing that behind the scenes of this outward physical war, there exists simultaneously a spiritual war that is taking place in the spirit realm of angels. If this is the case, as I personally believe it is, based on biblical references, particularly in the apocalyptic books of Daniel and Revelation, then the question emerges as to who are the spiritual powers behind the war of the Zionist state of Israel and the Iranians. Also, where is war leading up to in the spirit realm? Where's this war leading up to in the spirit realm? In our just completed series of the four horsemen of the apocalypse in Revelation chapter 6, verse 1 through 8, we saw that those horsemen are elemental demonic spirits that are unleashed by Yah to wreak havoc on his and his people's enemies. Now, for further reference to these lessons, you can go to our Apocalypse Millennium channel, where they are now posted up on YouTube, on the Apocalypse Millennium channel. We observed in those lessons how Yah unleashed spiritual deceptions on his enemies and the enemies of his people, as described in 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 19 through 23, when Yah dispatched a spirit entity to speak through false prophets to deceive the wicked king Ahab of Israel to fight a war that would destroy him. As stated, 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 19 through 23. And Yah said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. And it came forth a spirit and stood before Yah and said, I will persuade him. And Yah said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Thou shalt persuade him and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Now, therefore, behold, Yah hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of all these thy prophets, and Yah hath spoken evil concerning thee. Ultimately, it was this spirit of deception working through Ahab's false prophets that would bring Ahab down to fight a war that would kill him and defeat his army, as stated in 1 Kings chapter 22, verse 33 through 40. Quote, And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back from pursuing him, and a certain man drew a bow at a venture and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Therefore he said unto the driver of his chariot, turn thine hand and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. And the battle increased that day, and the king was stayed up in his chariot against the Syrians and died at even. And the blood ran out of the wound into the midst of the chariot. And there went a proclamation throughout the host about the going down of the sun, saying, every man to his city and every man to his own country. So the king died and was brought to Samaria, and they buried the king in Samaria. And one washed the chariot in the pool of Samaria, and the dogs licked up his blood, and they washed his armor according to the word of Yah, which he spake. Now the rest of the acts of Ahab and all that he did in the ivory house which he made, and all the cities that he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Ahab slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. This appears to be the case right now, that deceiving spirit entities are stirring up the Zionist Israelis and the Iranians to war. And this is turning out to be very destructive to both countries. I just got the report today from Full Spectrum, where the host of Full Spectrum had shown the blueprint plans that the Iranians have for every bank, every store, every facility in Israel, with pinpoint accurate missiles targets to tear down the whole infrastructure of the state of Israel, who were themselves deceived to jump into a war this past week. So we can see there's some spiritual deception that's going to be very destructive to both of these countries, as it already is. Now, these deceiving spirit entities are speaking through false prophets who are telling the leadership of both countries false prophecies and deceptions to convince them to fight and try to destroy each other. In the case of the Zionist Ashkenazi, a lying spirit has convinced the Ashkenazi European Jews to believe they are the actual heirs to the land of Israel, even though their primary ancestry is through Noah's son Japheth and not Shem, who is the ancestor of the Israelites. But Noah's prophecy over Japheth in Genesis chapter 9 states that Japheth, that was Noah's son, that Japheth would be the largest family of the race of mankind, but also that among Japheth's family would come a deception that would convince them to live in the dwellings of Shem's children, which is the land of Israel. As stated in Genesis chapter 9, verse 27, quote, Elohim shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. In this prophecy over Japheth that was pronounced by Noah, it says that Yah would enlarge Japheth. Now, basically through Europe and much of Asia are their descendants of Japheth, stretching from Europe and the Caucasus Mountains, stretching through North and Central Asia and China. Japheth's family is the largest of all the families of Noah's children. And they have the largest Y haplogroup DNA distribution in the world, stretching from haplogroups F through T. But here is also another meaning in the Hebrew for the word enlarge, as used in the phrase in Genesis 9:27, which state Elohim shall enlarge Japheth. In Hebrew, the word for enlarge is Yaphat. But the Hebrew word for Yaphat, the root word of Yaphat is Patah. Strong's number 6601, which according to Strong's Hebrew dictionary means someone who's gullible, deceivable, somebody who can be flattered and enticed or be allured and persuaded. All right? So it means somebody who's very gullible. Now, based on this root meaning for enlarge, Genesis 9:27 could also be translated this way. Elohim shall cause Japheth to be deceived, and he shall dwell in the dwelling place of Shem. So in this regard, Yah would thereby cause some of Japheth's children to be deceived, to believe that their dwelling is supposed to be in Shem's dwelling place. Now, this deception is what is called the Zionist Ashkenazi European Jewish people, who are really the children of Japheth, not of Shem. There's a deception on them spiritually, which make them claim they are the heirs of the land of Israel. And they're not even the children of Shem, to whom the Israelites descend from. Even though these Ashkenazi are primarily the descendants of European haplogroup R DNA and Central Asian haplogroup J DNA, all of which are genetic Japheth DNA. In fact, Netanyahu is haplogroup R. This is documented, which is not a Shemitic haplogroup of ancient Jews. He's really just a European. So as we look at the current war between Israel and Iran, it's clear that behind the scenes of this war of Israel and Iran, Yah has unleashed demonic spirits to entice both of these nations to war in order to bring much destruction to each of them. Because both the Ashkenazi and the Iranians, neither one of them are the descendants of Shem, they are all the descendants of Japheth, both the Ashkenazi and the Iranians. And thereby they have been enticed to believe spiritual lies about who has the rightful heirship to the land of Shem's descendants, the Israelites. Both the Ashkenazi Jews and the Iranians are children of Japheth, as stated in Genesis chapter 10, verses 1 through 5, which state, quote, "Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, and Meshach and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephat, and Togarmah." Now in verse 3 is the name of Jacob's grandson, Ashkenaz, who is the father of the Ashkenazi Jews, generations later. And in verse 2 is Jacob's son, Madai, who is the father of the Medes, who are today the Iranians. So both the Iranians and the Ashkenazi, both of them are Japheth's children. They're really kinfolk. So primarily the war between Zionist Israel and Iran is between two of Japheth's children, descendant of the Ashkenazi and Madai. When we hear these false prophecy, Bible teaching people on TV, like Perry Stone and others, they always want to differentiate the Ashkenazi from the Iranians, when really they're the same people. They're as though this is a war against the Jews, against the Shemites, when in reality, the Ashkenazi and the Iranians are documented DNA-wise, biblically, historically, to be the descendants of Japheth. So you can see behind the scenes, there's some spiritual deception going on with Japheth's children, just like Noah had said. So was the case in the time of the spiritual enticement that was sent by Yah, for instance, to allure King Ahab to fight a war that would be destructive to him, as we read in 1 Kings chapter 22. So now we see today Ashkenazi descendants of Japheth, are leading the state of Israel into wars that ultimately will bring down the Zionist government, whether it'll be through this instance of conflict now or not. Eventually, that's going to happen. That under the spiritual deception that Ashkenazi are direct descendants of ancient Israelites, even though genetically, historically, and biblically, they're really the children of Japheth. This is the big lie. This is the big deception that a lot of Eurocentric Christian people, evangelicals, are falling for and are being deceived. So we're in a time of great deception, working behind these destructive wars. It's all by lying spirits and false prophets and false prophecies, misrepresenting what scriptures have said. And it's ultimately this deception will eventually cause the Zionist government to go out on a limb so much, if they haven't already done it, it's yet to be seen, that they will eventually go out on a limb so much, believing their own lies, that they are the Israelites. And this is going to bring them down eventually. And they will ultimately, hallelujah, be replaced by a national government bearing the fruits of the kingdom of Yeshua. Hallelujah, may it be so. Also, the Iranian government is under the strong delusion that the Muslim vision of the Messiah who will emerge, whom they call the Mahdi, that he's coming. Now, this lying deception convinces that Iranians, who are also children of Japheth, just like the Ashkenazi are, it has caused them to believe that this false Messiah called the Mahdi will arise and deliver them in the Muslim world to rule the world. So they too are being strung along by a lying spirit who is enticing them to their destruction. As Israelites, we must be aware we have no dog in this fight. This is not our fight. We need to step back, don't take sides, let Yah do his thing. Ultimately, Isaiah the prophet says of the Iranians that they will be stirred up to join forces with demonic entities to not only come against the state of Israel, but to come against Babylon, America. In Iran, every time they say death to Israel, they always say and death to America. So already their hearts are stirred up to desire to be destroyers of America. As stated in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 17, verse 19. Behold, I will stir up the Medes, that is the Persians, the Iranians. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver. And as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of their womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon / America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So Yah is saying this Babylon is going to be destroyed by a collective of armies that will include the Iranians eventually, down into the prophetic last days. Now notice it says the Medes in this prophecy. The Medes are the Iranians today, and they're already described by the prophet Isaiah as being part of a coalition that will destroy this country with weapons that will destroy it like Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, this could be referring to nuclear. The ancient Iranian Persians did conquer ancient Babylon, Iraq in 538 BC, but they never destroyed ancient Babylon, Iraq, but they only occupied it. So the description of Babylon being like Sodom and Gomorrah is yet future and is referring to Babylon/America. Iran will be a part of a coalition of nations east of the Euphrates River who will be deceived by the dragon and the beast and the false prophet to overrun the land of Israel when the new kingdom government of the Nazarene Israelite takes over the land of Israel and builds the third temple in Jerusalem. It's stated in Revelation 11, verses 1 through 2, and Revelation chapter 16, verse 12 through 6, all which read, "And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of Elohim and the altar and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Elohim Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. It is these three demonic entities in Revelation 16:13 who will deceive the Iranians to join a huge army of nations who, like themselves, will be deceived and enticed by Satan to come across from the east of the Euphrates River to invade the land of Israel. In the ancient Israelite sacred literature text of First Enoch, it speaks of Iran being stirred up and summoned by fallen angels to invade the land of Israel one day, as stated in First Enoch chapter 56, verse 5 through 6, which state, and in those days the angels shall return and hurl themselves to the east upon the Parthians and Medes. They shall stir up the kings, so that a spirit of unrest shall come upon them, and they shall rouse them from their thrones, that they may break forth as lions from their lairs, and as hungry wolves upon their flocks. And they shall go up and tread underfoot the land of his elect ones, and the land of his elect ones shall be before them as a thrashing floor and a highway. In verse 5, the angels that shall return is referring to the four angels who are currently bound under the Euphrates River, who will return after being unleashed and lead a 200 million man army comprised of demonic entities and humans that will kill 1/3 of mankind, as described in Revelation chapter 9, verse 13 through 19. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before Elohim, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels who are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, 200 million. And I heard the number of them. Thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these three were the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone was issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth, and their tails, for their tails are like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. These same demonic entities will be unleashed at the blowing of the sixth trumpet, and will be in league with the human eastern armies of the beast, described at the pouring out of the sixth vial of wrath upon the earth. And there are these demonic entities who will entice this 200 million man army to come from east of the Euphrates River to invade Israel, the land of Israel, at the time of the pouring of the sixth bowl of wrath in Revelation chapter 16, verse 12 through 16. It's interesting that it's the sixth trumpet in Revelation 9 that you see this huge army at the blowing of the sixth trumpet. And then in chapter 16, you see the pouring of the sixth bowl of Yah's wrath, where this army is shown in more detail. As quoted in Revelation 16:12, and the sixth angel poured out his veil upon the great river Euphrates. Euphrates River is the river that goes through modern day Iraq. And the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. So there are nations east of the Euphrates. There's Iran and nations like Pakistan and all the way over to China. But it says this in verse 13, and I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of Elohim Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And he gathered them together in a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. In the ancient Israelite Greek Septuagint text of Isaiah chapter 13, verse 2, the demonic entities that lead and stir up Iran and the other armies like China and Russia that extend east of the Euphrates, they are described as giants or being possessed by Nephilim spirits. That means fallen angel bloodlines that will lead this eastern army to also not only invade the land of Israel, but to destroy Babylon, America. So as we look forward, it says here in chapter 13, verses 2 through 3 of Isaiah, lift up a standard on the mountain of the plain, exalt the voice to them, beckon with the hand, open the gates, ye rulers. I give command and I bring them. Giants, Nephilim, are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. And a voice of many nations on the mountains, even like to that of many nations, a voice of kings and nations gathered together. Yahweh of hosts has given command to a warlike nation to come from a land afar off, from the utmost foundation of heaven. Yah and his warriors are coming to destroy all the world. Howl ye, for the day of Yah is near, and destruction from Elohim shall arise. Also in the sacred literature text of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verse 28, and 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verse 43 through 45, it states that Iran will join with China and other lands of the dragon in the east in conjunction with Arab armies who will together destroy Babylon, America, as stated in chapter 15 of 2nd Esdras, verse 28, and also chapter 15, verse 43 through 45, which state, behold, a terrifying sight appearing from the east. The nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and from the day that they're set out, their hissing shall spread over the earth, so that all who hear them fear and tremble. Also, the Carmonians. Now, the Carmonians represent a region in southeastern Iran today. So it says, also the Carmonians, raging in wrath, shall go forth like wild boars of the forest, and with great power they shall come and engage them in battle, and shall devastate a portion of the land of the Assyrians with their strength, with their teeth. Then the dragons, remembering their origin, these are the nations aligned with the dragon like China. And then the dragons, remembering their origin, shall become still stronger. And if they combine in great power and turn to pursue them, then these shall be disorganized and silenced by their power, and shall turn and flee. And from the land of the Assyrians, an enemy in ambush shall be set them and destroy one of them, and fear and trembling shall come upon their army and decision among their kings. And they shall go on steadily to Babylon and destroy her. They shall come to her and surround her. They shall pour out the tempest and all its wrath upon her. Then the dust and smoke shall go up to heaven, and all who were about her shall weep over her, and those who survive shall serve those who have destroyed her. And this is talking about the destruction of America. It says they will pour out something like a tempest and all its wrath upon them, and the smoke and the dust shall go up to heaven. That sounds like a mushroom cloud. So in light of these sacred literature texts in 1st Enoch and 2nd Esdras, we can already see the handwriting on the wall of what's coming on America and what's eventually coming on the Zionist state of Israel. Even now, a partial semblance of the Persian-Iranian destructive attacks on the cities of Israel, as described in 1st Enoch, chapter 56 through verse 5 through 6, is already taking place before our eyes in conjunction with Isaiah 17, verse 9 and 11, which states, in that day, speaking of the time of the fall of the Zionist state of Israel, in that day shall his strong cities be like a forsaken bow. These are the cities like Tel Aviv, Herzliya, Haifa, his strong cities. And an uppermost branch which they left because of the children of Israel, there shall be desolation. Now we see the Zionists are beginning to see what it feels like when they have to be dug out of the rubble of buildings falling down, like what they've done to people in Gaza. Now they're experiencing what that feels like. Verse 11, in the day shalt thou make thy plant to grow, and in the morning shalt thou make thy seed to flourish. But the harvest shall be a heap in the day of grief and of desperate sorrow. Clearly, beloved, we are in the time of the beginning of birth pains towards Yah's deliverance and salvation of Israelites to come out of this Babylon America. The Iranians are stirred up against the American-based Zionist movement in our land of Israel. If you really want to look for the real power of the land of Israel, it's not in the land of Israel, it's in America, where the Zionist lobby controls and runs the U.S. government. Those of us who know these prophecies, we have to realize persecutions are coming against us for revealing this kind of truth that we're talking about. Because this is what exposes the lie. And Satan, it says, deceives the whole world. Not some of the world, but all the world. When they fought each other 2 days ago the Israelis went out of their way to destroy the television station in Tehran because of they want to control the information and the narrative of this war. But our master Yeshua says in Revelation 2, 9 through 11, Revelation 3, verse 9 through 13, that though this Zionist lobby is strong and they're trying to impose bills and legislation to cut off such talk as we're describing now, this is what Yeshua says to us, quote, I know thy works and tribulation. I'm reading from Revelation 2, verse 9 through 11. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews. They're not Jews, they're not Hebrews, they're children of Jacob, who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death. 10 days here means complete testing. 10 is the number of completeness. So 10 days here is referring to a time of complete testing, rather than just meaning literal 10 days, 24-hour days. But he says, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Ruach, the Spirit, saith unto the Messianic congregations, the Nazari congregations. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. And then chapter 3, verse 9 through 13 of Revelation, quote, our master says, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. They lie because they're deceived by Satan, the father of lies. And the truth is not in him. Therefore, the truth is not in them. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet and to know that I have loved you. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of testing, which shall come upon all the world to test them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my Elohim, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my Elohim, and the name of the city of my Elohim, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my Elohim. And I will write upon him my new name. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Ruach, the Spirit of Yah, saith unto the congregations of the Nazari Israelites. Let no one take your crown, for you are royalty. Hallelujah.